Chapter 8. Curiosity Killed the Cat. I woke to pitch blackness with a horrific ache in my head, like someone had shoved a fire poker right through my skull. I yawned and stretched. Every muscle in my body hurt like the plague, not just because of my uncomfortable sleeping position. I lay across the hard wooden floor of a small closet I'd found a couple of days ago in that downtown apartment, my head leaning against the bottom of the blue bin. The frigid cold hadn't left for most of the night either. Of course, the plague never helped. I could have sworn every day I woke I'd be infected with either a new ache or the old ones had gotten worse. My hand hurt the most, though, since it hadn't healed from yesterday when it met power for the first, and I prayed to power last time. At least it wasn't numb anymore. Everything that happened came flying back. I stared at the ground and shook my head. How was I going to get food and water now that my faction, scratch that, all of Middleton was after me? The rulers would have flyers with a sketched drawing of my face on it all over the suburbs by now. Maybe even had patrol groups searching for me here in the center of town. At least they'd feed Marf in jail and make sure he lived. I put my hands to my face. I couldn't stay in this closet anymore. I couldn't lie in the dark and let these even blacker thoughts haunt me. I opened the door, and what little morning light there was made its way into the apartment and entered the closet. It didn't help much. My life was as feeble as the light. And to think just yesterday this place had seemed so exciting that I'd been bursting with hope at the possibility that maybe, just maybe, the precious VOs I found here would finally lead to my faction winning the tournament of prestige. Now the apartment felt totally empty, and I didn't have a single ounce of hope to cling to. I groaned, dragged myself across the desolate living room, and gazed out the window. At least nobody was in the pothole-filled road 8 floors below, but somebody was bound to come around before long. Across the street, a brownstone apartment complex, an exact replica of the one I stood in, stared back. A gray cat waddled to the middle of the road. Scruffy and scrawny, it looked like it barely clung to life. The underfed feline stopped by an animal carcass in the middle of the street. The carcass could have been 100 years old, as long as the plague had been around, since it didn't have any flesh left that I could see. Would have been picked clean by scavengers ages ago. Now the carcass was just an outline of jutting bone and black fur. The cat brought its nose close to it. A loud creak tore through the air, and a silver box that hung over the street with 3 faded green, yellow, and red circles on it snapped loose from the horizontal pole that held it up. "Run!" I cried. The cat scurried away just before the box smashed into the ground. Glass and metal shattered across the street. That was the thing about stuff from the old world. Sometimes it just plain fell apart. The cat was nowhere to be seen, probably hid under a car on the street or in a dark alley. Thank power. Still, I couldn't keep from shuddering. Curiosity killed the cat. Wasn't that some ancient phrase? Maybe even from the old world? Didn't matter where it came from. It was proof Marf was right. Had been all along. I'd gone and stuck my nose into something I had no business sticking it into. Didn't matter how curious I was about the mansion and its stupid VOs. It was the Baudelux family's job to study them, not mine. My job was to find the precious objects. That was all there was to it. I'd been wrong, so wrong, and so had Chud, all this time, and I'd believed him. My skin boiled and the intense heat spread to my bones. How could I have been so stupid? I strode to the center of the room and kicked the small, valueless wooden table that sat there. It fell over backward and thudded to the ground. I stomped to the only other piece of furniture in the room, the drab, splintered set of wooden cabinets built into the wall I'd seen that bully of a supply hunter check out a couple of days ago. A liquor bar probably used to sit in front of it, because a long, curved indent had been carved in the floor. The cabinet doors had been inlaid with glass so I could see what was inside. Just an old, clear glass bottle with a dead white moth in it on the bottom shelf. I opened the doors, turned my head away, and slammed them shut as hard as I could. The loud shatter of glass rang out. "Hear that, patrol officers?" I shouted. "I'm up here, the criminal who left his faction house at night and even got to see the mansion. I bet you never have. Is on the 8th floor of this dingy downtown apartment building throwing junk around. Come and find me. You can even have my precious—" I reached into my pocket. "Necklace." I held it as high as I could. On second thought, "Just see if you can take it from me." I curled my free hand into a tight fist. On third thought, I'll tell you what I'm going to do with this VO. I ran to the window, opened it with a low crack. Still nobody outside. Figures. Oh, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to rip this stupid thing into pieces and throw it out the window. This is one VO you'll never get your hands on, you pathetic Middleton rulers. I was about to tear the necklace when its gold glinted. My arm trembled, like my hand that had touched the manor's fence yesterday. What in the history of Middleton was I doing? I'd lost my mind. I'd gone totally, undeniably nutso. I let the necklace drop to the apartment floor, then I sagged next to it and crumpled against the wall. Was this what happened when last year neglect reached a high level? Was this why the rulers locked you up when they realized you had it? Because you were a threat to society? Because before long you become a blithering madman who wanted to toss objects into a fireplace and risk burning your whole faction house down? I gazed at the necklace, which lay a couple inches on the hardwood floor, and my body grew a couple degrees warmer. I might have had a disease, but I loved that thing. Such a beautiful object with its shiny gold and bright red stone. And the fact it came from the old world, a place 1,000,000,000 times better than this dump, a place where people grew old. I couldn't destroy it. It was too priceless, I said out loud. Energy invaded my body. I couldn't go out like this. Couldn't let the patrol come find and kill me in this decaying downtown apartment. Sure, I could pretty much throw away my chances of ever seeing the mansion again, much less break into it, same with finding my kid. But I could at least try to get Marf out of jail. It was probably the last thing Patrol would expect me to do. No doubt Marf would hate me forever, but at least I owed him that much. And if I was able to do that, then maybe, just maybe, he could teach me too, since I needed him to survive anyway, and maybe he'd have a better life than if he stayed in prison. It was the least I could do after what I'd done to him. Unfortunately, the prison was uptown toward the suburbs, but I had to risk it. I put the necklace in my pocket and clenched it tight as I walked toward the apartment door. Despite the fact the VO represented everything I'd been dead wrong about, it still gave me hope. And it was all I had left except my life, and maybe Marv, if I could somehow find a way to break him out of jail.